We're going to start the recording. My name is David Patterson. I'm the Dean of Northeastern District's Online Leadership Academy. I'm also the NED VP of Chapter Support, and we are going to be presenting our Youth in Harmony class, which will be hosted by Scott Domaratius and Andrea Bossie. Just a couple things to keep in mind. We'll be going up until just about 8 o'clock. We'll take a break and come back at 8:15. At 8:15, we have a guest panel who will be joining us, which will be made up of the Destination Quartet, who are all experienced music educators, and talk about their particular and unique perspective on this whole issue of youth in harmony. Just a couple rules. Actually, there aren't too many because we don't have a huge number of people involved. If you feel like you need to ask a question, you can unmute yourself, and by that you don't have to go and click anything. You can just push down on your space bar, and that will unmute you, and you can ask a question on the fly. We will be watching the chat queue as well as the participants. If anybody raises their blue hand to ask a question,
they want them to do a regular hand.
Yeah, if you have a question, just hold up your paw, and we'll see it, and somebody will respond. So, without any further ado, I'm going to introduce Andrea, who is going to be running the presentation for the first session, the first segment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and start working on my technical skills here. Yes. All right. Love it when it works. There we go. So I'm actually going to begin the introduction of Youth in Harmony.
Okay, so just a few things to start with. Obviously, Youth in Harmony has a number of different facets. We have Harmony Explosion Camp is our biggest program, and we'll be talking about that quite in depth. We also have the Youth Harmony Workshop, and that's not the best proportioning. It's usually slimmer.
I like it fine. You're welcome.
But anyhow, so we also have Youth Harmony Workshop, and we'll have a little bit of information on that later on. That'll be in the second part. Sebi Massa will tell us a few words about that. There's programs from the society, including the varsity quartet and chorus contests and the junior quartet and chorus contest. The varsity contests are based on the college students, and they're held in conjunction with internationals. The junior series is for the high school students, and that's together with the midwinter contest. So anything along those lines, if you have interest in one of those programs, would be, contact myself or Andrea, and we'd be able to help guide you through that whole thing, because that's a really big program, and something like that we'd need to work together on in making something happen. One thing I want to make sure is that if you have things that you want to ask, find out more information about something that specifically concerns your chapter, and how you can get involved in Youth in Harmony, let us know, and we'll be glad to help out. It's something that you can start with something small, you can start with something bigger, and we can help you along. Then as far as other things, you have small projects like you can always contact a music educator and find out if they need help, maybe with their, if they have their concert. You might be able to provide ushers. or people to help man the refreshment table, something along those lines. Very often, they don't have the staff for that. They're students are concerned with their performances as we always would be. And, that's a way that you can help out in something that, is small, doesn't take a lot, but means a lot to a music educator and shows interest in their program. Something else that's always a good idea, that's something small, would be look and see if there's a Music Man production that's going to be happening in a local school. In that case, it's going to have a quartet. So there's a couple things you might be able to sponsor and provide music for them. You could, offer coaching. If you're going to offer coaching, make sure it's a high caliber, musician. It has to be someone that's, knows their stuff and is going to be able to make a good impression. So that's another possibility for something small. And bigger things, certainly there's always a possibility of sponsoring students to Harmony Explosion Camp. And we have a great camp that we'll talk a little bit further about. And that's something that's always a good way to go. And I guess at this point, we'll go back to the slides and take it from there.
All right. Thank you, Scott. I just getting right back to just to kind of give you an idea of Scott's background. He's got 40 years in BHS Society member, 22 years as a staff member, whether he's been a director, VIP for youth, involved with Harmony Explosion Camp, as well as the youth programs. My name is Andrea Bossie. I am recently the new director of Harmony Explosion Camp. I've also held the seat of the Area 2 Youth Outreach Coordinator, and I've served over 8 years with Harmony Explosion Camp. I've also been a member of Barbershop since I was 10 years old, so a member for over 20 years. So I have some experience as a youth member in Barbershop, just a little. Just a little quick thing about Harmony Explosion Camp. This is really where a lot of the fundamentals of what we have gained and educated ourselves on in youth has really come from. And it has gone from, Scott, who was like one of the individuals who started with Harmony Explosion Camp. I want to give you a quick second to talk about that, Scott.
Mm-hmm. So, yes, so back in the beginning, Eric Ruthenberg actually is the founder of the camp. And I was on the original staff and have been since. We've, the first one we had was back in 1999. And that was when we had, we had 17 students the first one. And that was 17 students was a big thing for the first one. We had our hands full. And the second year we had about, I think it was about 34 students. And we've been growing ever since.
The highest number we had was 165 students, not counting peer leaders.
Yep. And we've always had a great time with the camp. The students always enjoy it. I think one of the neatest things is that, well, first of all, we've got a very good repeat participation rate. And aside from that, one of the neat things is, in addition to the students coming back, we then often see their siblings, brothers and sisters, come back or come into the camp as well. So it's something that kind of is passed along in the family. As far as the camp itself, we've had lots of, we have a really good staff that's works on it and does a lot of effort to make a camp that the students really enjoy, and then put on a great show that the rest of the district gets to see. And that's probably a little bit about the overall camp.
Well, what's been nice is that when we have hosted Harmony Explosion Camp, Harmony College was also part, so there was that ability that you had a lot of crossover of quartets that were coming in, not just the clinicians. We call clinicians, which is the director and the quartet that comes in that teaches, we have a girls and a boys, and we flip flop to try and make things a little bit more fun and interesting. So that the kids get a full exposure of what barbershop music really is. We've even had students come as far as California. And we've had a lot of representation from Canada come and participate in Harmony Explosion Camp, and it's been very broad, and has been awesome to have all of these participants. So we're going to get right into a few things. I'm going to have what we have learned from the years with Harmony Explosion Camp. Scott, I'm going to give you a second. Go ahead and talk about our ups.
Yeah, we've, I guess overall, I think that the biggest thing is that if we give the students a challenge, they take it and they turn it into a success. And that's always, that's been, I think, the neatest up about the camp. And always the performance at the end, when you really get to see after they work hard and you see them all through the week, and they start out a little bit shaky on the music, and they pick it up really quick, and then you get to the show and see it all come together, and it's always a great feeling. We always are proud of what the students do, and they honestly understand and realize it's a team effort, and it comes along very well.
They arrive on a Thursday and they perform on a Saturday night show. So they do get learning tracks and they do get sheet music before they come and see us, but really they don't have the full grasp of it until they have to start working on Thursday. And it's the transition from people still being on their sheet music, still not even looking at the director, to 100% choreography, 100% energy and performance mode by Saturday night is absolutely amazing.
And one other thing just to keep in mind is we also have the music educator track as well, so that music educators attend. When they do attend, they don't have any chaperoning responsibilities. That's handled by our staff, so they're just able to concentrate on the program itself, and they learn various concepts for music education. Over the years, I think that the neatest comment I got from one of the music educators was that he said that we one of the things that makes our program different. He said he attended a lot of music education professional development programs, but ours is the only one that actually lets them sing. And he said that that's something that distinguishes and makes it all different, to be able to be on the other side of the risers and experience it from that side as well. So it's definitely a big plus on what we've accomplished.
Mm-hmm. So I can definitely say throughout the years, we've learned some downs, that a lot of the things that we may have had issues or mistakes on, we've learned from, we've grown, we've learned what to expect when we're hiring clinicians, when we have staff. We've had to change staff to accommodate for the growth of the program. We've had to add people to the program. So it's funny that we'll have a big poster in our office that will be completely filled up by the end of the program, things that we would like to work on and make changes. So all of our downs are really just progress for the future. So we always look to the past to make sure that we are looking for the future. Never think of anything that we've ever had issues with, our ups and our downs, our accomplishments or our mistakes, is anything to be ashamed of or anything to look down upon. Always trying to be moving forward and to be positive as well. Again, if you have any questions about Harmony Explosion Camp, feel free to contact either one of us. Just real quick, I want to, just watching time, did anybody have any quick questions? I'm taking it as a no. Okay. All right, so we're gonna start talking about what it's gonna, be like, I never fixed that, what's going to be like to start talking to your chapters or yourself about what it's like to get involved with youth. And you can't see it, but it's supposed to say what, what it means to have youth in harmony. Well, you need to ask these fundamental questions. Ask yourself, what does that mean to you, which is yourself? What does that mean to me to have youth in our organization? And ask, what does it mean to your friends? Because their influence can make such a huge difference on how you interact with the youth around you as well. Because you can't just do it by yourself. You always need somebody else to do it with you. And then ask your chapter what that means to them. So these things are very important, because when you are all on the same page, then you can all start working towards starting a goal to start working towards getting involved with the youth in your community. Okay. All right. Age matters. A lot of the things that I have learned, it does make a significant difference when you start working with youth, and you should always start from the top of the age to the bottom. What I mean is start it with college age students. They don't need supervision. They're of a certain age that you don't have to worry about having any parental, guidance or permission. And it gives you a start to start communicating with that type of age group, and then work down from there based upon your success and comfort levels and what works best with you when you start working with age ranges. There's a lot of things that you have to think of when you start putting these things together. Work with what you've got. Find out what you have for skill set in your chapter. Find out who has music education. Find out who has administrative capabilities, because you're really going to need a lot of back behind the doors work to get things done, and before you can start moving forward in anything for the work. Start to also find out who has access to educators, coaches, really find out what you have to work with within your chapter. And then that can help start building out what everybody is willing to start working with to involve. And location, location, location. It is very important to make sure that where you're at, where you are, can make a significant difference in the community that you involved in. That means, do you have colleges around? Do you have middle school, elementary, high school? See what you have as far as that perspective, as far as youth, and where you're going to host it. Make sure you have adequate space where you can break off to have sectionals if you need to do sectionals, and wherever you can host that it can accommodate for the number of individuals that you will be expecting for that. And always be willing to take feedback. Criticism and advice from others is just a way of growing. It's not saying you're doing a bad job. It's saying, well, maybe we can try something new, because maybe this isn't working just right for everybody. It doesn't mean you failed. Absolutely not. It means that you just learned something different about you, your chapter, and your organization when you're getting involved with all of this. Okay. Okay. Focal point when approaching. Be all about the fun. There's no point in doing all this hard work when it's just not worth the fun. It's very important how you come across when you're approaching educators, students, youth members, or really anybody who could be potential members. The reason it says don't look like a cult, and it's okay to understand that some people might not be very comfortable with that thought, but how we come across to the community can make a significant difference in how everybody takes us as an organization. Not to grow the chapter or membership. Never really come across that you're really out to get members, because they'll always think that it's another club somebody wants me to join. It's somebody else who wants to take money out of my pocket. Always feel as if it's a homey feeling, or really get to know the person you're speaking to before you kind of say, hey, you should come join us. And never make it seem like you're out for money. Approach is everything. Always nominate someone who's good to speak with kids for that project and chapter. Okay. Making sure that somebody who's had experience in being able to approach kids can be relatable. That's a fundamental for the foundation of a relationship. Okay. So this one, make sure that you're not trying to recruit for the organization or the chapter. It makes a significant difference when you have individuals, when you say, well, I'm from the BHS organization, I'm from this chapter, and I think you should come and sing with us. Well, first off, it might be nice to really get to know the person you're speaking to first. And as the conversation goes, some of these things can really come up. It's really important, especially when you're speaking to educators, not to make a point of any of these things about the chapter, the organization, or really coming across as if you're really here for your organization, because they will not want to involve kids if it means having the organization try to recruit members. So it can be really, really confusing and difficult. And don't be salesmen. Sometimes we forget that when we speak to somebody about our organization or the chapter, it can really come across that we're trying to be door-to-door salesmen, and we really don't want them to feel that that's really not what we are. We really are a family-oriented singing groups that really love getting together, and that really should be the focus. So this is a really tough topic. Anybody have any questions at the moment, or confused a little? Yes, Paul.
Unmute.
I've been in my chapter for about 6 years and relatively new to Worcester. I've heard of HX Camp and Youth in Harmony programs for the length of that time, but here HX Camp takes place in Worcester, and the most that I've known us to be involved in is supporting 5 kids with sponsorships or scholarships. With no criteria to that, just the first 5 kids that show up get the money. And we've had a couple of guys in our chapter act as chaperones. Beyond that, nothing comes back to the chapter. Nothing, no information comes back. No invitations to help with other things. So what I'm confused about, Andrea, is all of these ideas and resources about building relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing that I've been aware of really in Youth in Harmony is HX Camp, and that's on the margin. It looks to me like the camps that I've been to, the shows, the Saturday night shows, they are terrific. It's like the circus came to town. The kids come in without the face paint, and they leave face painted and choreographed, and they do an incredible job. But I never see any marketing about the circus of coming to town. It's like, you're talking about us being a cult or a niche organization, and I haven't seen, in my experience, the HX Camp break that niche barrier. So it's not meant to be a criticism. It's just an observation that frustrates me. How am I going to get into anything else with Youth in Harmony if I can't get excited and behind HX Camp?
So I guess a quick question to you, Paul. Do you mean kind of like advertising for the Saturday night performances or for Harmony Explosion Camp itself?
Just the press releases that the camp is in town. The parents are proud, of course, and they all go to the show. But my guys, in the last 4 years, I've had 2, maybe 3 guys go to the show, and that's with encouragement.
Mm-hmm.
Reminders that the show is here, reminders that the kids are the thing. And I don't know. I'm just, I can save some of this for the panel, but I just wanted to get that off my chest. So please carry.
No, that's perfectly all right. I think I did happen to see something in the survey that you might have mentioned about that. And that's definitely one of those down things that we are learning, and we are learning to progress to be better in certain things of that. As we move along, things that we figure out that do work and things that we figure out that don't work. A lot of times I don't get all of that information, and I know that Scott doesn't get all of that information. So a lot of the participation of the chapters who donate money to Harmony Explosion Camp are aware that it's happening, but they don't feel that they can get approached. And it's not anything that we're telling them they can't do. It's more along the lines of whether or not they want to take the time to come and see, or if they've gone to the college. It's going to be by person. What I'm speaking to as far as the presentation, it's how we come across and as we are coming to these individuals as we're approaching. As far as the PR and the advertising, there's definitely changes on the horizon as we move along for that. So I do apologize if your chapter did not get a chance to participate in the performance, but definitely feel free to reach out. And it just takes one person to get the information for the chapter to be able to get what they need. Does that help, Paul?
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So any more questions before we move on? No? Okay. All right. So this is kind of going back to when I was talking about how we're coming across. Learn how to talk to your educators and the students. It's really, really, really important. And I'm not saying, change your look and change how you talk as a person just so you can feel like you're kind of relating to the age range. I'm saying how to approach them. The first thing you should always do is call the school to say, hey, I would like to speak to your music educator. I would like to speak to your music teacher for your chorus. Is there a way I can email them? I love personally phone calls rather than emails. Having a phone call with somebody who's willing to take 5 minutes just to say, hi, how are you doing? Makes a significant difference. But before you approach the educator, make sure you're prepared with the information that may be needed when you do speak to your educator. Give me one little second. I need to move this window. All right, resources to use when reaching out for education. And I'm talking about youth education. Every organization, Sweet Adelines, Harmony Incorporated, BHS, your districts, all have on their website information about youth programs or who to contact. It's just a matter of taking one person who's willing to make the effort to do the work to make a difference in that form of education. So you can contact Scott and I. There's also web pages you can go to. There's some Facebook and YouTube online courses and information. And if you cannot find anything, again, Scott and I are definitely here to help. We want to make sure everybody has everything they need to get what they need to take care of. So what is the biggest picture? Why are we doing any of this at all? Why do we even want to make the effort of approaching youth members? To continue the legacy of barbershop. That is the biggest thing that I know in the last 6 years of being part of Harmony Explosion Camp staff is the biggest picture that we have ever wanted to make sure was ever projected to anybody. That's why it's so important never to come across as a salesman, or if you're part of an organization, come join us, come spend money. It's mostly to make sure that when you start off a youth member to even know what barbershop is or know what barbershop is today. It's not like it used to be where it was the top hats and the vests. It makes a significant difference when you change the image of what barbershop really is nowadays. When you can make a significant effort of being able to showcase what we have to offer, they know what it is. When you say, hey, do you know what barbershop is? Big difference. It gives them an opportunity to say, yeah, I know what it is. This, I just saw Ringmasters, or I just saw, Livewire. They were awesome. That kind of exposure can really make a significant difference. And it's to make sure that they know that even though they might not become members today, they know that later down the road that there's a chorus out there, no matter where they are, even a quartet, if they choose to do a quartet, they can go ahead and join or see what it's like, that they know that there's always a home base. So making sure that we continue the legacy is the biggest picture of them all. Okay. Open the doors.
Andrea?
Go ahead, Scott.
Let me jump in a little bit. So also keep in mind that as far as the barbershop legacy goes, one of the really neat, you should always think about finding out if there is barbershop in the school that you're not aware of. Go into their websites for the music departments for the schools in your area, and you might find out that they actually have a barbershop quartet, and we just don't know about it. We actually ended up, discovering that that was the case for my chapter, but in any event, you might find out that they actually have a high school barbershop quartet. And if that's the case, you might want to, offer to buy the music for some music that they want to do or something along those lines. This is something that can be real helpful. We actually had barbershop, basically one of the teachers contacted us and asked, they were looking for an arrangement of my old Kentucky home, because their barbershop student quartet had a specific gig that requested that, and they looked all over and they couldn't find it. So I was able to research and find the arrangement for them, and then I said, and we'll purchase it for you. And they said, oh, well, we didn't expect that. And it's like, nope, we're purchasing it. It's our gift. So there's an opportunity where we're able to, to support their work, and also find out that there's more barbershop out there than you might be aware of. Okay. Andrea?
Yes, okay. So going into kind of that topic that he was just talking about, it kind of gives us a way into talking about open the doors. These are kind of the things you have to make sure you are always discussing when you are starting any youth program in any form of musical presentation. Give them the tools to learn. That means finding out that you have everything that they need, learning tracks, sheet music, an educator or somebody who's directing, making sure they're accessible if need be, so that they can get all the things that they need to be able to learn successfully. Start with an easy tag or something, a very small song possibly, to introduce chord stacking, and one that can know all, and someone who can know all the parts. It's very easy to learn a tag we have thousands of them, of course. And if you don't know where to get them, BHS has thousands of them on their website. Learning a tag that all 4 parts and teaching it to kids is a really good seller. Gives them the confidence, gives them a chance to learn it, and they can get that whole feeling of what that chord stacking barbershop feel is that we really want them to get addicted to. Okay. The relationship with members is just as important as learning the music. As members that we have all created relationships and bonds with everybody, whether it be in your organization, your chapter, or other chapters and organizations that you've gone to visit. It really matters on who you connect with can do the same thing for you when you connect with a youth member. And I'm not talking about, becoming their dad or their surrogate parent or their grandpa or their grandmother. I'm talking about creating just a friendship. It's not about trying to tell them how to grow up, but really just be able to stand by them side by side and make them feel equal rather than younger. Really making sure that they don't feel like they're little children is really important, because that can really make a good foundation for a relationship as a barbershop member. Also, song choice matters. The song choice matters so importantly, because I will be honest with you, if I were to bring an old time barbershop song, let's pick one. Stars Shining Bright Above Me. Let's pick that one. That's probably not the title. And I were to bring that to high school students, they would be extremely disappointed and bored. I hate to say that. It might be a good quartet start one when you have a youth members get together, but really having a song that they can relate to. Doesn't have to be modernized. It just has to have all the fun connections all to it in order for them to feel that they're really enjoying themselves. Any questions about that so far?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Unmute.
For me, yeah, my question is, I'm not exactly sure what you're anticipating we're going to be doing as a chorus here. Seems different than trying to include some youth members in our chorus, one or two, or as you can get them. It sounds like you're talking more about a program at the school.
It can also be utilized in both things. I know it sounds like I'm talking about the entire thing that you would have to put together, but it really depends on the commitment level of the chapter, will depend on the amount of work that would be necessary for them to gain a certain amount of youth members who would be interested in the chapter. And remember, we're not doing this to create membership. It's a plus to always have somebody who wants to become part of your chapter. If you go into any of this thinking, what am I going to gain? You're not going to gain anything. You're going to gain self-doubt. Sometimes you'll gain disappointment, and you'll feel like it was worth nobody's time. If you go into it saying, I would like to expose my community to barbershop music because, hello, we're here. We've been chapters and organizations that have been here for almost close to 100 years. And if the community doesn't know you're there, whether it be from all ages to youth members, then that can make a significant difference to your chapter. Just exposing your atmosphere can actually gain you later on that membership that you're hoping for. Just saying, oh, you're a youngster, why don't you come join our chapter? Well, it's something to also think about when they join your chapter. If they don't have any songs that they enjoy singing with you, they're not going to stay very long. If they don't have bonding relationships, they're not going to want to stay. And I'm not trying to say you have to change your chapter. It's just something you have to look at as a whole. And that's why it's important when you start thinking about trying to get youth members in your chapters, you're going to ask them, really, is your chapter willing to do the work and effort to make them feel included and make them feel that they can be part of your chapter? Because let's all face it, if you're not willing to evolve, the chapter is not going to evolve and be able to gain younger members in with a group. And let's correct me if I'm wrong. If somebody doesn't feel the same, I'm so sorry. But everybody has to be on board for that to be successful. Anybody does that help, Jenny?
Yeah, it does. One of the struggles that mainly Harmony has had, they've done a few programs in the schools, but I think they were younger kids at the time, and it didn't really amount to anything. But we have tried to do, say, share performances with, and then spoken to some of the music educators, but those kids are so busy. And seeing if they might like to perform at one of our shows, and just say, so that one of their acapella groups would like to perform at one of our shows, or if they'd like us to come and perform at one of their shows. And it has just been really hard to even make that initial match of joining together to just kind of see what each one is doing. As I agree, sometimes they don't even know we're there.
I can definitely understand that. I know which ones you're talking about, because I definitely was the director of that youth program at the YMCA. And that was where I learned age matters where you start. Those kids were elementary school kids, and we tried to do it a certain way, but we learned. So if you stop trying, if the chapter stops trying and keeps thinking that, oh, I'm just trying to gain members, then of course you're going to have issues where you're not going to find any success in any of that. And if you have more questions where I can try and help, I'll be happy to, feel free to contact me later and I can see what I can do to help you. I do want to give Paul, is it a chance to say something?
Yes, if any of you had been to the NED's Kirk Young presentation on relationship building with music educators, might be as challenged by as like I am to sense that this is a multi-year process of building relationships with music educators that has to be built on everything you've said in the past. Trust, get out of the niche. We've been here for Minnesota with 60 years. To go out and try to knock on the door of a music educator, the trust isn't there. So the building of that relationship is all about almost like a covert operation. You sneak, you go to their website, you go to their shows, you might throw a compliment out there or a tip in the tip jar, or a very slow building relationship. It seems like we'd be miles away from this avenue of what you're presenting here tonight, at least in our chapter. There's college, there's the junior and varsity contests, right? So we could sponsor, I don't know, a coffee for a quartet, but that already have needed to be established. We could sponsor or support a college club, right? Isn't there college barbershop clubs that don't have to join BHS and still get the benefits of it?
Yes.
Yes, there are.
Yeah, so that's all new stuff that we should take advantage of, and it's just all the only guy doing anything in our chapter. I am the guy, and so I can't do it all. So anyway, that's a frustration level, and yeah, sorry to occupy so much time, but
No, it's okay.
question as it is something like to Jenny's point. It's how are we going to do this?
I'm going to go ahead and give Scott a minute, but I also want to keep an eye on time because we do have 10 minutes left, and I do want to try and give everybody an opportunity to get through this presentation. But go ahead, Scott, real quick.
Okay, so the key to it is to think of it as altruism. This is not a recruitment program, but the concept is to encourage music. You basically want to help them. I guess I think the best example that I've seen or heard is that the students obviously are very busy. Their time is limited and they've got a lot to do. They have only one opportunity to be active and sing in their high school choir. They've got an entire lifetime to sing barbershop. So the idea is to plant the seed, to let them see the musical style. Maybe they think that find that they enjoy it, and years down the line they'll remember and they'll come back and then there an opportunity to sing with the chapter. But if there's any way that we can help support the music program, then keeping them involved in the music program keeps them in music, and that's the important thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
So that's basically exactly what it goes to. Don't look at youth and membership as the same thing. You need to your membership drives need to be completely separated from being youth in harmony, because when you try so hard and it doesn't get the results that you're looking for, but you're not seeing the big picture, that you are exposing barbershop music to a community that probably needs it in their life, and whether they be members or just be an audience, it's a significant difference. Separate your membership drive away from youth. And if you have gained members from the youth programs that you do expose them to, that is the gift and bonus that you will get out of that.
One other quick thing is that years ago, many years ago, the society there was a lot of difficulty in getting involved with music programs, youth at all. Basically, the music teachers would not let barbershoppers in the door. And the reason is that, a lot of barbershoppers went out and were actively trying to recruit and recruit the students. And that makes it tough for the music teachers. They have their choir. They want to keep the students in, especially when you talk about the male students. They have a smaller pool that are interested to begin with. So if they perceive that you're trying to steal them away and then they're going to do this instead, then that's an issue. So basically, there was a lot of problem. The society has worked very hard to change that whole concept. They've worked together with the music organizations of music teachers, the American Choral Directors Association, and a few other organizations to change that whole perception. And at this point, we have the opportunity to work with schools again. So that's something to keep in mind.
And we're still building, of course. We're most definitely trying to build, because they shut those doors and it's taken us this many years just to try and get a few of them open. So I just want to go ahead and move on. This gentleman that's in the presentation with a little triangle there, this is a really tough subject, but it's very important because it really affects you, your chapter, and your organization. It's called the triangle of trust. The reason it's very important to talk about triangle of safety, which means when you are with anybody under a certain age who is a minor, do not be with them ever in any room by themselves, especially if you are not their guardian or parent. It is extremely important. Even then, it's kind of important you try and keep groups together, because first things first, one, having 3 people, it's very important, because if something happens, then you'll have support right there. When I'm talking about, there's a lot of horrible things out there in the world today that can really affect children and really have happen. And it's a really tough topic to talk about. And I will tell you, every single one of my staff members has to go through a molestation course before they're even permitted to be on the premises of the Worcester State. It is a requirement, because it's things that we unfortunately hate to talk about, but we have to, because it really can destroy the program if something horrible happens, most of all, especially for the child. So first things first is to make sure to protect the child, okay? Protect you, protect the chapter, and protect the organization. And it's called the triangle of safety. And usually when we do this, anybody, that means we see somebody who's by themselves speaking alone to a child, which cannot be good, and it's a bad interpretation. Does anybody have any quick questions about that before I move on? Is it pretty understandable, or everybody gets it? It's so tough to talk about. And I highly recommend at least one person in your chapter go through that molestation course, just to have it under your belt. So it's something that you would have, it's a recommendation, just my personal opinion, but it really does help to have those things in perspective when you're dealing with anybody underage. Okay. And if it was me, I wouldn't have anybody left unsupervised. Just my personal, from history's opinion. Okay. All right. So this is the part where I want to, got a few minutes left, and I kind of want to open up the door. Was there anything in the survey questions that we answered during this presentation?
One other thing to mention is that along those lines, on the Barbershop Society website, under youth programs, there is the society youth policy. So you want to take a look at that, and that pretty much gives a good overall concept.
Go ahead, Paul.
Oh, sure. Well, I don't see anyone else's hand up.
Sorry.
How about the COVID, the pandemic? What are the opportunities that might exist with like Jamulus and Zoom, where you don't have to worry about so much to worry about triangles of safety and protection, and you still could be invitational to music theory programs, the fellowship of a Zoom meeting, and the Jamulus singing live electronically should be pretty appealing to kids.
Here's the thing with that. Even the Harmony Explosion Campus is discussing that as we speak. They have been on Zoom, and they have been in their classroom, Zoom classes, pretty much all day throughout the year. And it's going to be very difficult to convince them to go ahead and do so again and keep their attention. I know that this pandemic has really made a significant difference in all of our lives as barbershoppers, but this is the time to get your administrative and teams put together. This is the downtime you say, well, I'm going to make the effort to start a team, because you really should not be the only person that's doing all the work, getting involved with the groups. You get your plans put together, your goals put together. You start working on putting together your PR that you would want to have put together. Just preparing for when the pandemic is over, you can start having all these goals, start participating and working on. Really establishing your team is the best thing that you could ever start with to begin with. Make sure you have definitely more than 4 people for any youth program or community program that you're trying to get together that is separate from your board. You, of course, this is my recommendation. You have to speak to the board, tell them what you want to do. But if you try and take it on yourself personally, you're going to have so many frustrations and issues. But having a team starts the motivation, starts the excitement. So before you worry about how are we going to get these courses together during a pandemic and do this Zoom and all these other, first create that team. And then the team can put together what the goal is and how they want to be perceived in the youth community. We're still, as Harmony Explosion Camp, still trying to figure out what we're going to do this year. And that alone, I understand completely how we're going to do this. If you can start having contests and conventions, then you can start putting your programs together. Just have it all ready before then. Just know that that's when the permission will be okay to have. Does that help, Paul?
Sure. Yep. Thanks.
Go ahead, Scott.
One thing on that is the music educators we've spoken with, or some of them have indicated that Jamulus would not be necessarily feasible. The problem being that it requires the high-speed internet connection plugged into the wall, and that whole concept just does not fly with the kids. So it does not, basically a number of people have said that that's not something that's going to be workable.
Okay. So it is 8 o'clock, well, 8:01, and is there any last minute questions that I can help answer?
John has one.
John, go ahead.
I was just wondering, is there any syllabus kind of put together that would help with chapters trying to say, here's a way to go about, to try and introduce it to the educator and say, here's kind of the structure that may help you introduce this to your chorus or to your quartet, And the second question would be, are there more mixed groups now that you're looking at choruses being all mixed? Are you looking at more quartet being mixed quartet, or do you find that you have more male groups or more female groups doing this? Thank you.
My personal opinion is, when you're dealing with the youth in general, kind of know your area. Know if it's an all-boys school or an all-girls school. That makes a significant difference. The other is a lot of resources out there that can definitely help, between either personally contacting me, personally contacting Scott, and all the resources that are available on the organization. There's not really, that I'm aware of at the moment, a syllabus, but I believe there might be one out there. I haven't seen it personally, but that's just my personal suggestion.
Yeah, the other thing that I'm aware of on that is Kirk Young does have a program that he's put together, which is quite extensive, and he does have it very well documented.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Jenny, one more question.
Yeah, really quick. The advertising for Harmony Explosion, do music educators get that directly? Or do the chapters advertise it to them?
We're
Both.
supposed to handle it. Yes.
So the schools
Nothing
actually
more to-
get that?
Because it's like 8:03, I can actually answer that question while during break. I don't want to
Okay.
take away from anybody else's break. A lot of that really has to do with our PR during the time and who we're doing that, and the chapters that choose to be involved as well. That's just me personally. A lot of that it's still one of those things that's it's held by the Harmony Explosion Camp, and it's also held by the chapters who participate in donating. As I'm learning as a director, we've got things that we're doing, things that we're changing.
Okay, so
I
I
don't know if that
think if we had materials or knowledge of when the information went out to the school educators, the music educators, maybe that's a time to make a link also. And I know we've paid for people to go to the camp, but I hadn't heard about it recently. Anyone in the area
Recently,
going?
because of the pandemic.
Well, not this year,
The
but I
other
mean
part was
previous.
there has been some changes in the past that we are aware of.
Okay.
Why that might not have happened, but that's dealing with Harmony Explosion Camp itself, and it's not going to be the same case in the future.
Okay, we're going to take a break down till 8:15. So do whatever you need to do. Go adjust your underwear or whatever. Change your undergarments. Get some coffee. Get something to drink. We'll be back here at 8:15 sharp. Let you know where Diane and I are in northern Worcester County. We are under a severe thunderstorm warning. We've passed off host to Scott, so if our electricity goes down, you can continue, but just to let you know, if all of a sudden we disappear, our power went out. So we're ready to begin our second segment, and I'm going to turn this over to Scott Domaratius. Go ahead, Scott.
Okay, so we're fortunate enough to have Destination with us as our panel, and they'll be able to, as they're all current or past music educators, they have been working with students for many, many years. They have a great understanding and a new, different perspective that they can offer us all, so we can all find out how the music educators work on things and how they look at it. So
we also changed our underwear during the break, so we're good to go.
We did.
So
Great
welcome
advice, Mr. Patterson. Great advice.
So welcome, Todd, Steve, Jude, and Sam.
Thanks, everybody. Yeah, we're
Hey-o.
excited about this.
Yes, thank you.
Should we tell people a little bit about us, Scott?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. So in short, the reason why we're here is that all four of us, I think between us, we have, what was the number, guys? How many music ed degrees do we have? Like 9 or something between us?
Seven or
Lot.
8, 9.
Something like that. Yeah. Anyway, we all run pretty deep in music ed passions, and to some degree, we're all still teachers. I was a teacher for 10 years. I'm not now, haven't been for a bit, but the other 3 are still actively teaching, meaning teaching kids. I still teach, direct a chorus, and I teach for a living, just not necessarily in the music world and in school like that. But we have pretty strong feelings about this. So we overheard a little bit about the conversation you guys were having, and it sounds like you're well, things haven't changed much in the conversation that's being had from back, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago when I was doing youth in harmony, young men in harmony, it was called at the time, with the district, where people are still struggling with that balance between, is it a recruiting program or is it just an outreach program? And the answer every single time, by the way, is it is not a recruiting program. It is never a recruiting program. It will never be a recruiting program. And if you turn it into a recruiting program, you will fail. You will fail at both recruiting and youth outreach. And that's coming from us who are music educators through and through. So don't know how many of you also are music educators, but let me tell you about me and then I'll kick it over to someone else. But so as I said, I taught for 10 years. I have a master's in music ed that I'm not using directly anymore, but it's amazing what kind of transferable skills you find in your life. I've been teaching adults in various ways or another for a long time now, and still teaching music to a couple of choruses and various other activities that I do. And still have a very strong sense of teaching because my wife is a teacher and my two kids desperately need teaching. So between the three of them, I'm still connected throughout. Steve, tell us a little bit about what you're doing teaching wise.
I have my bachelor's in music ed. I haven't gone on to the master's yet because my wife's working on that, and we don't really have money for both of us to be in college plus our kid, all three of us at the same time. So I'll be on to that next. But I've been teaching high school kids for 15 something years in some capacity or another. I'm a high school music teacher right now. I've got my, my choir and my percussion program. I've also directed a Sweet Adeline chorus for a long time, and I worked with obviously BHS choruses as well. And beyond that, I also did a lot of stuff with drum corps, so DCI and both marching and teaching as well. And so I've been sort of doing the competitive music thing for a long time now. I've got a lot of years and a lot of seasons doing competitive music in various forms, barbershop being one of my favorites. And so here I am.
Jude dropped off. Jude
he's gone.
disappeared. So Sam, why don't you take next?
All right, it's Jude's turn.
Yeah, but he dropped off, so you go next.
But Jude's back. But I'm still going to go anyways. Jude,
Yeah.
You lost your spot in line. I am a high school choir teacher. I have been for the last 10 years. And before that, I was in middle school for 5 years. So I've seen a nice little growth all the way from sixth graders all the way up through dealing with the high schoolers. And I'm in one of those big high school programs in West Hartford, Connecticut. So I feel like I can bring a lot to the table here.
Is it my turn?
Yeah, I guess
Yeah,
if you're
cool.
thanks for gracing us.
I got disconnected from the call. Sorry, Todd.
It's okay.
Hey, everybody. I'm Jude. I'm the lead. I am currently a middle school choral teacher and an elementary school music teacher at a private school in Manhattan, New York City, but was in Connecticut for 4 years before that. And so I see the youngest of the students of Destination, I suppose. So my perspective is even further younger. But I've worked with plenty of high school kids. I've worked with plenty of programs like that. Didn't get into barbershop myself until near the end of college, for whatever perspective that lends. But I'm a little different, and then I got into it later. So
not too different, Jude. I got into it 2.5 years ago.
Okay. So that's me. Thanks.
I should also mention that our home chapter, which is Manchester, Connecticut, which is now home to two choruses, a men's chorus and a mixed chorus, have been working pretty diligently and pretty consistently in youth outreach for, I don't know, 25 years, maybe. Back when it was really just starting out, we had a pretty robust effort. And I can tell you that in those 25 years, we have had, let me count how many young people we've recruited into our choruses. None, as a result of that program. And there's not a single person in the chorus in either of the choruses who would consider that to be a failure of ours, that we haven't recruited somebody in there. It's just not what we're looking for, nor what we would expect. So
Yeah, can I say something to that end?
Sure. Yeah.
So like Kirk got into and gets into a whole lot of nitty gritties. He did that whole article for the Harmonizer and his session and all of that stuff. Really, and just like Todd, I've been hearing this same conversation off and on for years in terms of the outreach versus recruitment thing. And it's the way I try to frame it when I talk to people is that if you're thinking about what you're getting back for your chapter, you're approaching it the wrong way. Really, the thought is more that it is an investment in barbershop in general. Because, I mean, just the very nature of the demographics here, if you're working with high school kids, best case scenario, as far as recruitment wise, they would join your chapter their senior year and then go to college and then probably not come back to their hometown, and you would never see them again. Right. Like, I mean, that's just kind of how these demographics work.
They're the worst members possible.
Yeah. So the goal, though, would be to instill a love of barbershop. So later in their life, when they are an adult and their kids are now in school and they're like, man, I want to do some I liked singing in high school. I want to do some singing. So this is now 15 years later, 20 years later. They think, oh, I remember I did that barbershop thing. I wonder if there's any barbershop groups around. And then they find their local chapter wherever they happen to be at the time. And so like your chapter will not get any benefit from it now, but barbershop as a whole will, hopefully, in the long run, which is, I mean, that's as far as I can tell, that's the impetus behind all of the emphasis on pouring money and resources into the YouTube channel for BHS as a whole anyway, is to, create lots of content to get people excited about barbershop that may not draw them in right now to their local chapter, but when they are at the point in their life when they can, they will remember all of this awesome barbershop stuff, right? So that's the idea. It's investment in the future of the hobby, not necessarily your chapter.
And it gives, at least in the case of Manchester, it has given us something to focus on and projects to work for and a purpose to what we do aside from just, working on the music, but it's another reason to work hard on the music. And that's good enough for us just to give us something good to work for. Scott, do you want us to, elicit specific questions, or how do you want to roll with this?
We can kind of do it as a hybrid. Basically, if people have questions, they can ask them. If you've got material you'd like to.
He said the magic word. Take a drink.
That's a trigger word to teachers right now.
Also, I did forward you the comments from the participants that sent the survey in. So.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could pause there. We kind of waxed philosophic about the wider purpose to Youth in Harmony. Do any of you have any other questions or concerns that you want to hear our point of view on, related to just that general, I wouldn't even call it altruism, because even altruism isn't quite the right word. You're just doing this because it's just right to do it. But are there any questions about that, David?
Yeah, we have a number of chapters, not only here in the Northeastern District, but throughout BHS, of older aged guys that are 2 or 3 or 4 generations removed from high school age kids. How do you penetrate that? How do you overcome that?
Yeah.
That's a general question, but I would like to get, I think that may be an underlying question for a lot of people.
I can take this one.
Sure.
You probably won't. Your resources will. It's going to be an incredibly difficult, if not impossible, nut to crack to get, your older 67-year-old guys chapter, like, to get high school kids interested in that. But what that chapter is doing is having chapter shows where they're bringing in guest quartets. One of the things that Manchester does, and I know a lot of other chapter does, that is one of the most useful things, is like, when I'll tell you, one of the things that got my students more excited about I'm a barber shopper. They know me. And the thing that got them super excited about it was when Newfangled 4 was on the Manchester show, and they invited them to come do a little mini concert at my school. Like, they brought them around the day before the chapter show. And so the kids saw a group that was extremely high level, because remember, when they're listening to something, a chorus singing at a 70 is really good for a community choir, but they're not listening to community choirs. They're listening to professional music on the radio, right? So that's where their threshold is. And so when you get quartets coming in singing in the high 80s and 90s and stuff like that, that's when they get impressed and excited. So if you can bring those guest quartets to their school to sing for them, that's probably one of the best ways to make those inroads.
Yeah, I mean, good music is attractive to any age at any time, right? So the better the quality that you're bringing to the groups, the more attractive it's going to be. But additionally, there's a relevancy. So Newfangled 4 has a relevancy to just their style of performing that kind of comes from their age, but age is just too quick of an excuse. It's really just how they perform that resonates with younger people. I've always found what's interesting, and Jude, Sam, I'd be interested if you agree with this or not, that I think if you happen to have a more aged chorus of ladies and gentlemen who are looking to perform for younger people, and that group is older, let's say average age is like somewhere around 65, you actually really could resonate with super young kids, elementary kids. That's like a home run, matchup right there. They're forgiving. They're just happy to see people performing with joy and enthusiasm, and it's very meaningful to them and resonates well. Middle school kids and high school kids become a little bit more discerning and judgy in various ways, and so relevance kind of takes a different tack there. Jude, what do you think on that?
I'm thinking just along the lines of that, and even with what Steve was saying, that regardless of what you would do as a chapter, I think it's important to stick to who you are. There's a lot of it's really easy for a chapter to attempt to reach to a different age group and potentially lose some of their core along the way by doing that. Maybe they did something like putting on some sort of annual show where they're all zombies or something like that. Reaching out and
nice job.
Yeah.
But going along with that, perhaps you could at one of these chapters could have a spokesperson, but then they could bring in a quartet from another chapter that might be a little bit more aligned as far as ages are concerned. Just a different perspective or a different approach, but making trying to get the same result.
Right, but I think it is like, to what you're saying, Todd, I think it's important for the chorus itself to put on the best that the chorus is and not to, sacrifice anything in the way of trying to be something else. You should be the best that you are as a chorus. And that's what will reach out. Being genuine, even to middle schoolers and high schoolers, is really critical.
I'd say,
but of course.
That's a critical point, Jude. As far as the high schoolers that I work with, if you are presenting what you are the best at, your best stuff that you're able to perform to the best of your ability, that's the stuff they're going to resonate with a lot more than you trying to hand select things that you think are going to resonate with them. Because as soon as you try and play a mental game with them, they know. And they're like, oh, interesting. But if you bring in the top quality of even classic barbershop and ring those chords, they're going to find joy and love inside that. They're going to see it in the faces. And a lot of the students that I teach would find more appreciation in that. They still are a tough audience to reach, even if I'm trying to teach them about choral singing in the 1600s in Europe, in England. It's like they have to learn about that, but try to find the relevance and make it approachable to them is my challenge as well. So I do understand that from even my own job's perspective, but just make sure whatever you present to them and you're trying to connect with them, it is genuine and it is what you love.
David, is that more of an answer than you were hoping for on that?
Fire away.
Go ahead, Andrea.
I lost my unmute button for a minute there. So having that, all of you as educators, music educators, what is the biggest, and I think it should be something what is the biggest no to do when you're bringing in quartets or choruses into your music room?
Like the big, don't do it thing?
What are things to stay away from when you do? Just out of general.
I can throw an initial answer, which is the things that you should do, which is to bring in a quartet
that's frozen.
That is really great timing on his internet's behalf.
I wonder
he's one thing you need to do is
we
didn't hear any of that.
The meaning of life is
summed up in this one thing.
Oh my God.
Dude doesn't know that he froze.
Yeah, is this a sheepish face?
Oh, he's back.
Oh, he's back.
He's muted, but he's back.
Hey there, guys.
Hey, Jude. Welcome.
You
having
left
thunderstorms
that
down in New
one.
York too?
It was so your question was what not to do, but I would say that what you should do is definitely bring in quartets that are able to care about people and be genuine and be honest and be open towards other people and demonstrate a love for others. So if you were to bring in some hotshot quartet that sings super good, but they're kind of snooty, well, that's not going to reach out to kids very well. It's important to bring in a quartet that is kind and wants to interact with children. I don't know.
Right on, Jude. We've for years we've brought our guest quartets around to schools, and it's amazing to me how and sad really how many times great quartets just fall flat on their face from the feedback we get afterwards, just because they could be our current gold medalist, but last year's 5th place quartet is hitting home runs with these groups just because they're more eager to connect with the kids and deliver something that they want to have mean something to them. So yeah, right on.
Yep.
As far as I would say don't expect class time. As a teacher, like the amount of raw minutes in a day that I have with my students is extremely limited and extremely precious. Especially depending on the time of year. Like if you have your chapter show in May, no way are you getting any classroom time because everybody's in the last couple of weeks prepping for their spring concerts.
Same with November and December.
Right. Now, Manchester does their show in January, so they usually have less issues with that. Nobody's doing shows in January. But also they run up against snow sometimes.
And standardized testing and
standardized
midterm,
testing.
And
right.
since you're not using class time, you then run into the field trip issue of pulling kids out of other classes that can all meet in the auditorium or wherever to actually see the presentation.
Bottom line is don't expect anything. Just offer and ask and be genuine about what you're offering and let the teacher figure out what the best way to utilize this resource that's being genuinely offered is.
Right.
Wouldn't you say? Yeah.
Yeah, and speaking selfishly, I'd also recommend that if you're looking for the do's as opposed to the do nots, I would love to have any presentation or performance have some kind of interactive portion for my students. So it always goes over better if the students can do, not just observe and not just be a part of that rapport with the quartet, with the members of the chorus. That's key, because if they can have a little bit of a smaller amount of time with a couple of people, as opposed to trying to feel like they're in a large auditorium or even a choir or band room with a lot of them versus this group presenting. If you can break down that barrier of presenter to audience, any way, shape, or form, that's going to be good.
It's a great point, Sam. Do you have any particular examples that come to mind? Not necessarily in barbershop, but any groups that have done that with yours?
The last year, one of my groups that I brought in was Voces 8. That is a group that is widely known right now as far as being one of the top choral ensembles, 8-voice group out of England. And I brought them in to not only do performance for my students, but also to run a full workshop with them. And it was a very tough thing for them to try and do, but they did manage to get a lot of audience interaction going, considering the fact that I had my full program, so upwards of 200, plus the guests from 4 or 5 other high schools to come in. They still broke it down, and with the fact that I was able to prep them for a long time leading up to it, they had a little bit of star status walking in, which meant that the students had an automatic acceptance of anything that I was going to try right there, just by the groundwork laid out in advance of it as well. Put the students in a place where they were able to really want that kind of interaction. So coordinate with that music educator so that they know exactly what to communicate to their students as far as what to lay the groundwork for success on the day of. Just bringing in a quartet with limited notice and no prep work, that's a failure on the behalf of the music educator, in my humble opinion.
Yep. There's also some venue thing and what Sam said about trusting the educator, I think is important. Sometimes there will be misses there. I know when I've been doing these things as a quartet, like having been part of the quartet that was brought in, I've done every version of it, from brought into the top level choir classroom to sing a couple of tunes and teach them tags and do singing exercises and stuff, all the way to the other side. I remember one where we were brought into the gym where the entire school was in the bleachers, some behind us, some in front of us, and handed one like Shure SM58 mic for the whole quartet and told to sing for the whole school, which, like, I mean, those kids, A, couldn't hear anything, and B, wouldn't have shut up to listen if they could. Like, it was just a nightmare all around. Like,
just give it to the baritone.
Yeah, I think that's what we did, actually. But it just, being aware of that, just how that stuff can land, you got to talk to and work with the educator on that.
David, I see your hand, but I saw Paul had his hand up earlier too.
I wondered if you guys in your chapters or in your music educators' lives would ever encourage the opportunity to have board members that are non-chapter members represent some musical educator aspect of the community. You know what I mean? They're not chapter members. They're not singing on the risers with us, but they would be consultative members of the board.
There's no reason not to. I think if you could find a music educator who was willing to give up that time, I'd be surprised. but yeah, there's no reason not to. If you have somebody who's interested in doing that kind of thing, that sort of perspective would be great. But also to that same point, I think your time is better spent. I think, Paul, you actually brought this up in your questions during the break. And I saw some in the questions here that spending your time, if you're just starting out doing this, spending your time building rapport, trust, and a long-term relationship with one program, one music educator, one school, and really make that something that you can consistently build. That one person, not necessarily being on your board, but they become validation for anybody else that you want to try to work with, where they will not because we're untrustworthy, but because music educators are bombarded 42 times a week by everybody and their brother trying to make money, trying to be opportunistic about the gift that these programs have, is that there's hundreds of kids who are talented, smart, and motivated, which is rare to find in any age group. And they're all in one place. So fundraisers and, this person doing this program, they're just hit with this stuff all day long. So it's not that what we're offering is untrustworthy. It's just as an old friend of mine in my course used to say, it's just a fart in the breeze to everything else that the music educator is experiencing. So once you have that one relationship that will then validate for you, for us, it was Manchester High School in Connecticut. We had our performances there every year. We had a long-standing relationship with all of the directors there, and then turned into, if we want to talk to South Windsor nearby, we would have Keith Berry at Manchester call over to South Windsor and say, no, you really want to listen to these guys. There's some cool stuff that can happen with this, including the Harmony Explosion Camp, including bringing a quartet to you. You name it. These guys will bend over backwards. Man, we've had guys show up at Board of Ed meetings to fight for a renovation in the auditorium, to fight for allowing for a field trip, and to just be townspeople who are, pounding their fist and saying, no, this is what we want for our school program. And we let them know this is part of what we're doing for you. This is part of the partnership that we have for you. We get nothing out of that. We're just helping them out in whatever way they ask for. So all that to say, I wouldn't worry about putting them on the board, Paul. I would just worry about investing your time to build that one relationship that'll have way more potency than somebody on your board.
Oh yeah. Agreed.
To David, I guess.
Yeah, we've been talking pretty much about full in-school programs. What was going on before the lights went out in March and April. What is there available at this point, even for completely remote educating or hybrid? Is there anything that we can do, or do we have to sit around and come up with great plans for when the lights come back on?
Before anybody else in Destination answers that, I'm just going to say that right now, this, in my mind, David just grabbed a grenade, pulled the pin, and threw the grenade in there. I'm going to sit back and just let the three actively teaching members. What's teaching like for you guys right now, and how could people help you?
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Shut up. No.
We're super tired of being on Zoom calls.
Yeah.
This one
As-
not excluded. Yeah.
As is everyone else. I don't.
This is actually pretty nice, but like in general.
I don't know that there is much that can be done right now. I mean, it is a struggle. Like, I know for me in my program, it's a struggle to get my kids to do or get invested in anything just for me and my program, let alone anything extended beyond that. Like, it's it's just a nightmare right now. And beyond the kids' level of interest, the educators' ability to engage with any new material or any new initiatives or programs or anything is basically non-existent at the moment. I mean, we're all just in total survival mode, and at least that's what I'm seeing. I don't know about you, Sam.
I'm in a different spot. My kids are singing live, but at the same point in time, while I have half of my students, the first half of the alphabet, for example, 1 week, the other half of the alphabet is live streaming my class at the same exact time for the full 78 minutes. So it's really tough for engagement across the board. We're trying our best, just like Steve did mention that we are taking so much in stride and trying to make the best of it so that to our administration, it looks like we're doing our jobs well, even though we have no idea what we're actually doing. If you want content to reach us, then it probably has to be something that is prepackaged for us to be able to show, have it be something that is really, really high quality that you have a chance to work through and get ready. I would be more than happy to have that be one of our activities in my block classes, for example. If you want to give us inspiration, you give us something to work towards, you give us something that we can then really amp up with our students, because right now we don't even have concerts that we can look forward to. We're learning repertoire, we're working on sight reading, we're working on everything like that, but it's getting real tough to provide inspiration when we don't have the ability to put down any kind of concert. And my kids have done virtual choir after virtual choir after virtual choir. Aside from being redundant on their behalf and them feeling like, okay, we're doing all these things, but for what? It's also a lot of work on the educator's behalf as well to make that all come together. So if there's something that can be put together on the behalf of a chapter that brings kids together, has them submit videos to, you can take a tiny little bit off of that music educator who's trying to make all those other things work and still get the students to be working towards a performance of some kind and have it be a collaboration with a chapter, that would be something interesting to think about. I'm not trying to make less work for myself or my compatriots, but it would mean a little nice diversification of what we're trying to do when we don't even have a concert we can work towards.
Let me ask a follow-up question before we get to David for you three particularly. Would there be value to just simply sending a note, a card, something that says, I know this is tough. We're thinking about you. Let us know if we can do anything, and leave it at that?
I mean, if it's somebody I have a prior relationship with, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's just out of the blue from some guy I've never heard of representing some organization, I'm going to be like, what the hell is this? All right, whatever. And I'm going to move on with my day.
I'd rather a 2-minute video from a chapter saying, hey, we're all in this together. This is us reaching out from here. And have it not just be to the educator, have it be to the kids, have it be to the whole school. Name it by name in an actual video and say, hey, blah, blah, blah high school, we're your neighborhood barbershop chapter. We're reaching out to you just to let you know that we're going through the same thing. We are wishing you the best in strength in this weird time. And that's it. No strings attached. That would mean more than a piece of paper.
Sam, that's brilliant. I'm totally stealing that from my chapter.
I am. That's the best thing I've learned
Yeah, that's
tonight.
awesome.
Yeah, I don't want a piece of paper. Give me something actionable. Let me say it to my kids, not like printing a label that has Conard High School on it. Like, if you want to wish Conard High School good during this whole time, give me an actionable 30-second clip I can play in my class that actually reaches out from, so I'll speak locally since we're in Silk City general area and we're in Hartford general area.
Yeah.
Reach out, send that thing. I'd be happy to play anything like that.
David is eager to contribute.
Yep.
Well, we saw something at the NED virtual convention where a number of chapters have done virtual chorus projects. And why not just say to a music educator, here's our chorus in these with pandemic restrictions in place, we put together this choral piece you might enjoy, and just leave it at that. And it's nothing other than just something for them to listen to, maybe comment about, or have some discussion as to what they saw. Not necessarily recommending that they try something like that, but we saw a number of choruses doing that. We're gearing up for a show in December, and we're as Scott knows, we're doing the best that we can to get this out to all the kids in the schools around our area. So something like that could be helpful, perhaps.
I would just amend that just to say that if you within that you get somebody who can do the smallest bit of video editing, you add on a little bit of a preface to it on that video that you send out, that would be a lot more meaningful, because then also you take control over the prep and the presentation, as opposed to relying on the music educator to be the person that's selling everything and making sure that it's hyped up enough and the kids are coming at it from the right place. If you do a small preface, that means that you are the ones controlling the tempo and the feel of the introduction.
Great point. Thank you, Sam.
Go ahead, Jenny.
I'd like to know when things get better, what are the things that could be helpful that we're not expecting anything in return, but is it supporting financially some touring of your groups, or is it providing maybe refreshments at something, or transportation, or what is it that we could reach out and offer that would be helpful to you folks, not using up time? Because that's been our experience, is that they are just so busy and have so many obligations, and the kids are busy. So in the theory of we expect nothing in return, we're only sharing our love of barbershop and an altruistic feeling, what would be helpful?
New HVA system.
I would say this kind of, Kirk touched on this in his stuff too. It widely depends on the school you're talking about. I mean, not that cutting a check is ever a bad thing. I mean, that everybody appreciates that, but I would hazard that, a Southington High School music program would appreciate a $300 check, not nearly as much as a Hartford, Weaver High School in Hartford, where that might be like as much money as they have the entire year to spend on music. Like, so and same thing with like, I think Paul, you were saying it during the break, like you were you the one saying you invited him to sing at Mechanics Hall?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like, I know there would be some, like the programs generally that you think of as the big, amazing music programs. They're the ones that have music educators that are like getting their kids lots of performance opportunities like that, as opposed to the school down the street that you've never heard of their music program. They might be much more excited about an opportunity like that or something like that. It really depends on the program, what they do, what they need, as far as what would be helpful to them.
And I think that the gesture is greater when you can actually give them the thing that they're looking for, as opposed to the money to go to the thing they're looking for. So I think you're on the right path with that, Jenny. And it doesn't have to be anything huge like funding a trip or, paying for a bus or anything. It's probably the little things that matter. And I've heard tell, I don't know how widespread this is, but through my teacher friends of various sorts, I hear tell of teachers having wish lists right now that are published in a couple different ways online, that are things that during quarantine they suddenly find themselves needing a USB microphone.
USB microphone is huge.
Or who knows what it could be, but a number of things. So if you search some of the teachers in your area, you may find online or get access to somehow these wish lists and be able to actually get a couple of the things on their wish lists. I don't know how pervasive it is. I just know it's a thing.
It's very everywhere.
Is it?
Yep.
I can't tell you how much stuff I had to buy this year.
Where do they go to look for that stuff, guys? Is there like a teacherwishlist.com or something like that?
I don't have anything like that, but if somebody sent
I'm
me
registered at Bed Bath and Beyond.
I'm on Amazon.
if somebody sent me an email and said, hey, my organization wants to donate to your program by buying $200 worth of equipment, what should we buy? Like, oh man,
2 seconds. 2 seconds later,
they would have an email back like within 5 minutes of me seeing that email.
Okay.
Also, I do want to mention, I think you're on the cusp of a really great opportunity to expand and open up this a lot. Because a lot of us have this full year that is basically a giant reset button on how we want to structure our future concerts. For me, in the program that I have, my concerts are very laid out, lots of major performances a year, but to have something change in the fall for the year is basically not going to happen. It's already set, it's already in plans, everything's already there. So if you are thinking about trying to establish that connection with a local school, local high school department, start brainstorming with that teacher now so that you can really try and hit the ground running when
Yeah.
we're out of this, because we're all going to be looking for concert opportunities, and we might take this opportunity to maybe part ways with concerts that were not meeting the 21st century student the way we want them to.
Yeah, that Pops concert that we've been stuck doing every year for 20 years because everyone expects it. Maybe we're going to work that out of our program and work in a new opportunity or something like that.
The concerts right now are not reaching out to the modern student. They are reaching out to the student of the 90s and the 2000s, even the 80s. So a lot of us are currently looking at what is the best opportunity for these students. Is it really the stand, sing at audience, go off stage, next group? Is that the best experience for these? Or can we look at these collaborations and these authentic music making experiences with local chapters and local choruses and community choruses and professional organizations? Is that the route that gives these kids the best experience in school?
So I assume, Sam and Steve, that we should be looking out to 2022, not even worrying about next year. I'm looking.
2021's ambitious.
Yeah, I mean, next school year at the earliest, but possibly beyond that.
I will be so overwhelmed with just getting everything back into normalcy in 2021 that I can say, as far as adding an extra thing in that's not already known to me, would be a lot. But if I'm processing it right now,
or beyond is really important.
It's all about getting the educator thinking about it way in advance and then getting plans, because we can be flaky.
Yep.
We don't mean to be.
We know that about Steve for sure.
We don't mean to lose track of things. We honestly do.
Wow.
But
just right under that bus.
Yeah. I tried to run it over and move on, but it's by no design of us to be like ill intent, but with this over here, this over here, this over here. And the fact is that we have 8 performing groups we're trying to make concerts for over here and here and here. It's easy to lose something. So it's just.
Yeah, that's just one of the truisms about music teaching is you'll have a to-do list that is, 80 items long. You'll only have enough time to do 50 of those items, and you just kind of have to accept every day that you're not going to get to about 30-40% of the things that you're supposed to do. And so things just fall off the radar really easily.
And don't worry about reminders. They do not hurt. And don't feel like you're stepping on anyone's toes, but just a small little hey and a reminder, like, would you still like to do this? I have probably put it onto a list and it's made its way too far down.
I want to kind of take a second of initiative here, if I can, Scott and Andrea, to address something that I saw in the survey feedback that you guys gave us ahead of time here that I thought was really poignant in 2020 particularly, which was somebody inquiring about the heritage of barbershop is so storied, but largely the stereotype of it resonates around 4 old white guys singing. And how does that play in 2020 where there's a lot more sensitivity and vulnerability and a heightened awareness of all of that? And I actually think we've flirted with this a couple times here, where several times people talked about genuineness and just being open to being who you are. If you're old white guys, go be old white guys, but it's not going to be like, because you can't be anything else. You don't have the arsenal to be something you're not, and you'd be doing yourself a disservice. But I would say that being open about the idea of maybe where the history of barbershop comes from, and that this did not start as old white guys, or to talk about what's happening in barbershop, in the world of barbershop today, which is that it is now open to people of all types who sing. And inclusiveness is not just the name of the game, but is the very fabric of who we are as a society. I don't think you need to go out of your way. There was conversation during the break about, should you bring a mixed group? Is that going to work better than a men's group? Again, I think just being who you are and worrying more about genuinely offering the best thing, whatever your thing is, and offering that at the best level possible is a far bigger win than trying to create some sort of a contrived narrative by bringing in almost a false representation of who you are, or of who barbershop is, which is not the case anymore today anyway. But that was an interesting food for thought. I wonder where Jude, Steve, Sam, where do you guys land on that?
I mean, I in my first year last year with my kids, I did a couple presentations on the history of barbershop and describing to my students that I was a barbershop singer and getting them to understand what that meant. And I just made sure to be honest with them. They're middle schoolers and elementary schoolers, but they can understand the history of music and race, and they can understand those things. And made sure to show diverse examples to them when I would show them things. To show them pictures of my friends that were barbershoppers, who all look different, who were different genders. Yeah, this is important. This is really important for kids.
It's also important for them to see that the society is actually taking steps to really talk about this. If it were not, then that would be sending a whole different message to the students. If you're talking about the whole history, then you also talk about what is currently happening as far as the conversations taking place, looking at past practice, looking at everything, and really, really talking about it. Those are the conversations that the students would appreciate the most.
And even to say, like, let's say I was the person presenting to a school group about that, I would probably say, I'm not the most qualified person to talk about this. I'm aware of these things, but there are resources available that could explain this far better than me. And leaving it at that is fine too. Acknowledging that you're aware of this, knowing your role in this, and being open to it is also acceptable. In fact, that's probably more appropriate now than it ever has been before, to admit that you don't know, that you're aware it's an issue, but there are people who can speak to it better than you can.
But it's also important to acknowledge that you are at a certain place on your journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Good point.
Yeah, the journey, everyone's at a different place on their particular one, but the students understand a lot better when they know where you are and that you are making the most genuine effort to go there.
Go ahead, Paul.
I think showing up though in like skimmers and canes and singing.
Oh, please don't do that.
Singing Swanee, that you be careful about those kinds of things for sure. But
yeah, I do it on every other day. But
Paul, go ahead.
A quick question: as music educators, do you guys see barbershop as a genre of music, of a cappella music, or an arranging style of music?
It's a mix. I mean, objectively, barbershop is an arranging style. Anything can be made into barbershop, right? But descriptively, you can say that there is barbershop music. So it's fuzzy.
As far as what the kids will, how they will slot it into their brain, it'll fit for them as a genre. They listen to hip hop, they listen to 21 Pilots, they listen to barbershop, they listen to I make sure, like Jude said, technically it is an arranging style, and I teach barbershop with my students every year, and I cover all of that stuff. But it is, that's, they're not going to go on to, if they're going to go try to listen to a barbershop thing on YouTube, they're not going to be going because they want to listen to the arrangement style. They're going to be going because they want to listen to something that came out of the barbershop society and is coming from a quartet or something. I don't know if that makes sense.
Also important to make sure the students are aware. Almost every quartet sings pieces that are not also of the arranging style. Like, them saying that they're interested in barbershop is not them saying that I exclusively want to sing in that one style. It's all about the quartet and what the quartet really tends to go towards, or what the chorus goes towards. So for them to see just a quartet sing this great barbershop harmony, locking these 7 chords, but then also break down and just do something simple that is more approachable to them. It helps round out the whole thing and not have it be such a style differentiator for her.
Especially if you can follow up that conversation with a song that's not from the 2 centuries ago, but you can follow it up with something that's more recognizable for them, and even say, you might have to explain that there are parts of this that are barbershop like, even if it's not like a contestable arrangement. It could still help draw them into the idea that something from their day could be arranged into something like the barbershop style. There was a hand somewhere. Andrea?
So I definitely point, it is 9:03, and I want to try and get one more opportunity if anybody had any more questions for Destination before we continue. Any more? No? Oh, Jenny?
Just quickly, have you had students attend the Harmony Explosion Camp?
A couple over time. I will generally pitch it to them every year, but it's anything during the summer is not usually a matter of my enthusiasm or sponsorship or scholarship from the chapter or anything like that. It's that they disconnect from school. Some of them are on vacation in other parts of the country. Some of them are visiting dad in Colorado, some of the, whatever. And it's just the cross section of kids that are available during that time and interested in doing more singing during their summer is extremely, that portion of Venn diagram is extremely small, and it doesn't usually line
Got
up.
it.
Very small.
Yeah.
So I will say upon that, that's why we know that music educators have that as an issue. So what we've done in the past, and we're going to try and implicate more coming up, is inviting music educators for free to come to the program at the same time, which we used to do a lot, but I don't know why, but we're going to figure that out. So that they are also going, they're getting sheet music, they're being part of the program, they're not chaperoning their kids are not their responsibility while they're at the program. They're there to learn about what barbershop is if they don't already. And they're given an opportunity to get the full barbershop experience. So they're not just the kids will be going, the educators are invited for free as well. So it makes a huge difference when we can get that accomplished.
I would additionally note, however, that you can tell them that they don't have responsibilities of chaperoning their kids, but if they are on site and their kids are there, they are responsible for them still.
No matter that you tell us we're not, we are 100% responsible for the students.
You're just making it easier for them, yeah.
Until we invite you to the other building on Saturday night after everything, and then you have free beer and then you're good.
Well, that sounds like a good opportunity for sponsorship from your local chorus to support, the local music educator who wants to go to that. And I realize you weren't going to ask for them to pay anyway, but you could ask the local chorus to pony up the money to send their local educator.
That is what our donations go towards, to pay for those expenses. So even though we're not putting it in black and white, what every penny from every chapter is going to, in general, that's what the money is paying for. It's paying for putting up the expense of food for educators. So there are definitely things we are going to grow and work on to make it a lot more accessible for Harmony Explosion Camp for everybody. So, any more questions at the moment? Any more thoughts at the moment?
Well, I have a thought. But there's a question which should probably take precedence. John, what do you got?
No, I was just going to say, how did you feel about the a cappella groups and the colleges that are showing? So many of the colleges have a cappella groups versus barbershop that I'm aware of. So how do you feel that kind of fits in with what we're trying to do?
The only reason I sing barbershop is because I knew of a cappella in college. They are brothers. They are brothers, and we should honor and push both of them.
Thank you.
Something else to give a little bit of perspective is if you go on Harmony Sweepstakes website and look at the list of champions from the Boston Sweepstakes,
It's a lot of quartets
Harmony
on there.
Sweepstakes, you'll see a lot of them were barbershop quartets. And it's not just a one-off, it's one after another after another. So that's something, and that just says a lot for the style and how it's perceived by a college age group
Nationwide,
audience.
not just the regional, but nationwide. There are a number of barbershop quartets that score very highly in the sweepstakes, acapella sweeps.
I wonder why.
Hey, you don't
Who's
lose
the black
anything.
belt of acapella? That's why.
Yeah, you don't lose anything by the explosion of a cappella groups at colleges. Yeah, they just might be interacting like that. And of course, right now in my life, I have no interest in singing a cappella. Like traditional collegiate. I sang it for 5 years in
Oh,
college.
I was
I
going to
have
say,
my
you
acapella
quit in our quartet?
I have, well, about that song we're doing, that's kind of like that. And I have an acapella group in my school that I'm training up in that way as well. But
Yeah.
My background through acapella does help me out still, in that I picked up barbershop at 34.
It's another reason to consider this the long game. This is not about recruiting somebody tomorrow ever, and that there just couldn't be a worse mistake that we could make, but to look at it that way, it just can't be that. It's not only something that we're looking at. I know the Manchester chapter has sponsored a ton of kids to go to HX over the years. I know that we have done a ton of outreach programs over 20 years, and as I said, we've recruited exactly 0 of those kids directly into our choruses, but we know of at least like 10 that we hear back from who joined other choruses 10 years later in some other part of the world and country, and we consider that every bit as much a success as if they joined our chapter. Steve, you were going to add to that.
Well, I was going to say, you might be able to consider Connor a member that you got through your youth outreach.
That's true. That is true. Yeah.
I don't know that he would have been quite as excited to join if Newfangled 4 hadn't come through.
That's right. Yeah.
I will definitely say it does say a lot if you do take an opportunity to actually speak to one of the youth members who is part of the society, and again, kind of get a perspective on how and why they decided to become part of the barbershop community. That there in itself can really give you the atmosphere and kind of the idea of why these things came about. And then some of these things will surprise you. It really has to do with the relationships.
Now, for the kids that involve themselves in the HX camp and can't get enough, and they want to keep participating in this stuff, I know that there's also the Youth Harmony Workshop. Scott,
there's Ray's thing, right?
SETI's.
Oh, is it? Okay. Yeah, there's stuff.
Scott, how did you want to segue into that?
Yes, if Sebby'd like to say a few words about that, this is a program we have in the district, which is another one of our youth programs.
Oh my God, Sebby's here.
I've been here just lurking. The Youth Harmony Workshop Northeast has gone through multiple iterations. I know Steve Wolf was involved in one of the early ones. The one with Brandon when Men in Black was like there all the time.
Oh yeah, I think I went to that once or twice.
Yep.
Involved. I've been helping coordinate it, and in 2018 we had the chance to go to the International in Orlando as a chorus to participate in the first. BHS has really kind of opened the door on how they're reaching that group that is after high school, but also not quite like, that 18 to 25 range. Basically it meets once a month. We've gone through some different stages of where's this thing going, because it had always kind of been in Worcester. But we realized that because it is a kind of a district level thing, we needed to find ways to get to the far reaches of our district.
So what's it like now, Sebby?
It was growing up until about a couple months before we all got locked down. I will say that probably for people in the district are aware of what happens in our district, you probably know that some of our more recent champs as people who have come from this workshop or come from HX or a combination of both. And I think it's a great continuation from the HX camp. We haven't quite figured out how to make that transition like a formalized thing, but it's on our docket. Also, for those curious, going mixed is also on our, when we get back into actually being able to sing together, mixed is going to be part of our equation. So these are some of the steps that we're taking. I will also say that I don't quite do the operational day-to-day. Will Rogers actually does that now. I just have had my hands on it for a while, so I kind of know where it has been and where it is going, and I kind of sit there in the background to help Will if he asks for it. But these are all things that he's pushing, and I'm supporting him on. We are still kind of scratching our heads on how we get more people involved. It is always troublesome, and we noticed that it was we noticed that these are people who like barbershop, that want to sing with their own people, but how do we make, instead of coming internal, how do we become more external? So I'm not going to lie about the challenges there, but it is a program musically led by Ray Johnson, who is a wonderful educator, who does an excellent job getting really anybody to explore all of their voice. But he has been involved since day one, and I know that he will continue to lead us musically. So I don't know what else I should say about it, unless there are questions about it.
How about how would might there be people in chapters that might want to get involved? How would they get involved? What would they be looking forward to once things get started again?
So we are looking at, first thing is we're looking at kind of a rotation. And for those who don't quite know the geography of the district, we're split into 5 divisions. And at the very least, based on the 4 that are stateside, we're looking to kind of get a rotation going between our 4 stateside divisions, kind of in that Vermont/Hudson Valley corridor, Connecticut, kind of that eastern Massachusetts, and then kind of up in that Portland, Maine/eastern New Hampshire area, so that we can really start touching more areas of our district rather than people who are within a couple of hours from Worcester. We realized that was one of the first problems. So that's something that people who want to get involved can expect from us. If people wanted to get involved or know somebody who wants to get involved, I'm a good starting point as hey, when are we going to do this thing, or where do we do this thing, or how do I get music? Because we have links and all that kind of stuff. Everything, of course, is digital, so that's helpful for the younger sort, I suppose. I just like paper music, but I'm a square. Did I answer those questions, Scott?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
I guess the answer to how to reach out to somebody if they're interested is SEBI.
There you go.
Yep.
So
Andrea, what's up?
I'm a starting point. I will only say that. I'm only a starting point.
So I'm going to stop here and kind of, we're going to just wrap this up right at this moment, because we have gone past, and all of these things that we've been talking about have been absolutely amazing. We want to thank Destination for joining us. This has been so enlightening. You have we have Scott. I'm here, Andrea, as well. You have people here to reach out to. I want to thank David and Diane for participating and getting the tech part of this together so that we have this opportunity. And I thank you all so much for doing this. This is step number 1. Just talking about it is going to help get you to get that next foot in the door to getting to the goals that everybody wishes to have. And that's to continue the legacy of barbershop and make sure that everybody can enjoy it as much as we can.
Look, it's Diane.
No, it's Diane. Thank you, everybody. Thank
if you
you
guys
so
have
much.
further questions that the quartet can sort of deepen the explanation with you, we're destinationquartet@gmail.com.
Well, thank you, Andrea and Scott, for putting the class together. Thank you, Destination, for participating in what was very enlightening. Hearing from the 4 of you was very enlightening for me, and I hope for everyone else. Thank you again to everyone who's participating in this historic event. This online leadership academy that we're running is the first ever in BHS, and it's surprisingly it's going a lot smoother than I thought it would. So anyway, but it's been a great experience, and as we always do, shortly, in just a short time, maybe within a half hour, I'll be sending out a link to a survey for all of the people that were online tonight. If you would please fill out the 5-question survey and make additional comments if you wish, and get that back to me. And then tomorrow we've recorded this session. We will get this set up. Glenn McElhoe, our district secretary, will convert this to YouTube and create a YouTube link, and that will go out tomorrow to all the enrollees. We missed a few people that didn't show up tonight, but they'll be included in all the follow-on information. So again, thank you, everyone. And you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Okay.
We are home. Let's
Thanks,
remember.
everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Guys,
Thank you,
safe
everybody.
travels to everyone.
I'm so conflicted by that. I
Watch out for
can't
the
go.
wet leaves on the roads.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Jude.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you all very much. Good night.